want you to tell me in your own words about your journey. What made you leave America, come back to India and start Frontier Market, and just describe your journey in your own words.
What do I say? So first of all, for those who don't know, I'm the founder CEO of Frontier Markets. I've been working in India now for about 21 years, and I was just motivated by the idea that we can work with women, build a business, create impact, and Frontier Markets was born.
What are your biggest learnings when you sort of see this intersection?
So we thought that we could tackle both challenges at one go. Let's uplift her, let's digitize her, let's let her become the talwar that she actually is by giving her the skills that she needed, and let's have her connect services to people.
You know, you've inspired me. I think the only other person who matches my energy is Ajaita.
Rural India is not AI savvy, right? They're not necessarily fully tech savvy either. So what we have seen is, how do you take the aspiration, the barriers, and bridge that into an opportunity?
And I want you to sort of throw some light on AI and entrepreneurship. We were just talking about...
These women are now telling us how they want AI to be used for them. So they use words like efficiency, they use words like safety, and I think it's going to be really powerful to see what happens when rural women are designing or telling AI what AI should do for them. And that's going to be a game changer. So we're really excited to see what happens in the next 1 year. So stay tuned to see the coolest new use cases of AI, but for the masses, because women don't just think about themselves, right? They think about their community using something.
Wow, I love it. Hi, I'm really excited today to have Ajaita with me, Ajaita Shah, the CEO and founder of Frontier Markets. I first met Ajaita in Davos, and it's been quite a journey. We've been friends, Davos to New York to India, and of course now we're going to do London together, and Cannes, we're coming to Cannes. So Ajaita, I want you to tell me in your own words about your journey. What made you leave America, come back to India and start Frontier Market, and just describe your journey in your own words.
Sure. So first of all, thank you for having me here. Suti is we've known each other now for a few years, and I have to say that the more I get to spend time with you, the more I realize that we are literally two peas in a pod. So it's really fun to meet my Energizer buddy friend. So what do I say? So first of all, for those who don't know, I'm the founder CEO of Frontier Markets. I've been working in India now for about 21 years, and I had started my journey in the microfinance sector, which essentially was the first of its kind social business that was looking at investing in women and giving them a chance to be bankable and giving them an opportunity to set up their own businesses to become self-reliant and earn income and really change the pathways of their children's futures. And I literally moved from America. So I grew up in New York. I'm from a Jaipur Jain jewelry family. And so half of me reads, writes, speaks in Hindi, knows how to do Kathak, make chai, and do all the other things. But at the other side of me, I was also an entrepreneurial, I would say, curious mind that really wanted to understand what it meant to be a global influencer, and how do we recognize that as a global citizen, the world is not about our backyard. The world is actually about people. And where do people need to be seen as equals? And how do we address the inequities in the world? So I was very passionate, I think, about development and economic empowerment for a very long time. And through college, I went to Tufts University. And so right after I graduated from college, those 4 years are always fun. I did everything from getting trained in mediation, conflict resolution, to interning for a US congressman, to doing research assistant for a Pakistani scholar, to even actually, cleaning someone's boat. So I've done it all, but what motivated me was India. I realized that if I wanted to truly understand my role for impact, I needed to come back. So I graduated from college, moved to India, and got into microfinance. And that journey changed everything for me. I thought I would come for a year, and then I told my parents I would go back to New York and become a lawyer. but meeting those women and getting a chance to recognize the power that they hold when you give them the right tools and resources, the impact that can be created was just so life changing for me that 1 year became 8, which then became 21. And I was just motivated by the idea that we can work with women, build a business, create impact, and Frontier Markets was born.
Wow. I didn't know the lawyers had part of it. Of course, I always knew the impact purpose. And as you know, even Win leads with impact with purpose. But amazing. I mean, this is the first time we're actually really talking about that, considering we've known each other. So tell me something. What is the gap which you saw? Like, what is the gap which you've seen in India and which you are trying to solve? As you know, that even Win is doing stuff, and we're the only India-led platform doing things at a global level. At Davos and New York and Cannes and so on. But like how, because you have a global outlook, exposure, reach, so how do you see these gaps? Like, how can we sort of solve?
So I think there's two different questions. So I'm going to maybe address the first one. So again, for those who don't know what Frontier Markets does, Frontier Markets is today India's largest AI-enabled rural commerce platform that connects people to services in rural villages, remote rural villages across the country. What makes us really unique is that we do that through the power of women. So today we have 40,000 rural women entrepreneurs who are using our technology platform called the Meri Saheli app, which was designed with them, for them, and by them to let them become these digital service providers or last mile access facilitators, where they're helping rural families get access to banking services, financial services, agri solutions, clean energy products, healthcare, etc. The vision was, can a woman help facilitate services at the doorstep to where her community lives? And today, because of these 40,000 women, over 5 million households across the country have access to over 100 million solutions. And the power of this is so exponential because not only are women earning income, but being seen as the problem solvers of their villages, but it's also that they've become digitally transformed and they're AI savvy. But the families are getting access to better quality services that improve their lives. And so in that context, I decided to set up Frontier Markets after my work in microfinance. I realized that, India is a massive beast, right? We have 1.5 billion people now in the country. 800 million of those people live in rural villages. So 700,000 rural villages where they are not being seen or heard or understood. Where they live, they're not getting access to quality services the way you and I do, right? They're not getting regular lighting. They're not getting access to quality healthcare. They're not getting banking services. They're dealing with climate catastrophes. They're dealing with, and it's ironic, right? Because they feed the families of the world.
Exactly.
So those agri families deserve to be seen, deserve to get services where they live. On top of that, if you look at it, 51% of that population are women. And these women are hungry to be earning income. And they're hungry to become influencers and leveling the playing field. In India, unfortunately, in these rural villages, many of these women were married at the age of 14, have barely any sort of education, certainly not digitally savvy, and have like 4 kids. They have a responsibility of wanting to contribute to their family's income. They want to change the future of their children, and they want to be seen and heard and, exercise their power, because I will tell you, they're very powerful. So we thought that we could tackle both challenges at one go. Let's uplift her. Let's digitize her. Let's let her become the talwar that she actually is by giving her the skills that she needed. And let's have her connect services to people. So that is kind of how we recognize that if you listen to people through women, because women know how to understand people, you're able to build an ecosystem of change. What's exciting is it's not just the impact that's been created, but it's the business that's been created, right? Today, we have over 210 plus corporates or companies that have come onto our platform because they see us as a route to market. So we've been now called the super platform for rural India because we're basically designing a way for companies to reach an untapped market of 800 million people, which is quite exciting.
Wow. You know, you've inspired me. I think the only other person who matches my energy is Ajaita. So, Frontier Market is at the intersection of technology, community, impact. So, what do you see that, how, what are your biggest learnings when you sort of see this intersection of the three pillars which I have just said?
Yeah. So I think that, it's important to recognize that um, rural India has changed a lot. When I look at it, I was 20 years old, 21 years ago. It was a very different rural India versus what it is today. Today, rural India has roads, has internet connectivity, smartphone penetration, and electricity. And the fact is that the people or the community of rural India, they are getting exposed to, the urban world or the modern world, right? They are using WhatsApp, they are going on YouTube, they do want to be an Amazon customer or a Flipkart
Yeah.
customer. And so you're seeing this evolution. Young girls want to learn English, they want to get jobs. So, how do you match that aspiration with a reality and then bring that in with technology? Now, of course, there are big divides, right? Rural India is not AI savvy, right? They're not necessarily fully tech savvy either. So, what we have seen is how do you take the aspiration, the barriers, and bridge that into an opportunity? And so, by bringing in simple technology, which is AI powered, that is designed again by these women, right? So, these women were like, please don't make this complicated. Show me more icons and symbols. Don't use complicated words. I'm very clear about what I want. Just listen to me and co-create with me. So today, when that technology was created that way, she literally was like, tell me what to do, tell me what to learn, tell me what to see, tell me what to ask. And that's how we were able to integrate these solutions. So I think the rural family, to much to other people's misnomers, they are very aware about what they want. They're very aware of who they are. They're very aware of their value and their power, and they're very clear about their aspiration. Our job is to listen to that and then combine those resources to
Wow.
make it happen.
Yeah, yeah. That's why even Vin is going to be thinking about using leveraging AI. And Ajaita, since I've known you, whether it's at Davos and New York and India and now. And on that note, I always see you wearing a cape. I did wear the cape in the New York event, you know about it. But I want you to tell me what is the story of the cape? I've asked you, and it's been almost a year, and now we're going to sort of know about the story of the cape.
So um, I think it's an interesting story because, when you do your work in India, you always have to have a certain look, right? So when you're in a rural village, I always work with us, right? I never wear saris. I always work with us. I would never wear like Western clothing because I wanted to always,
Connect also.
connect with the community in a certain way. Though a lot of field staff in South India wished I wore saris, I have tried it, but I'm more comfortable in my kurta. Then when you started going outside of the rural villages and going into India, people started paying attention to you. You're on all these stages. All of a sudden, everybody was said, well, what's your look? Now, I don't have a look. I've never had a look. I'm like the least fashionable person on earth because I don't really think
You
about it.
have a look.
Now I have a look. So how did this happen? So basically, a really dear friend of mine said, Ajita, I want to give you a look. They're like, what is it about you that you want to stand out? I said, listen, I want to represent my power and I want to represent my groundness. And I also want to represent my culture. And at the same time, I also want to recognize that my culture is dual. I'm American and I'm Indian. And they are both equally embedded in me. How do we do that? So she designed the first cape. This first cape was worn about 3 years ago, right around the time that I won the Schwab World Economic Forum Award at Davos. So I thought I'd try it out. It was a huge success. Everyone was like, what is this look? powerhouse look with a woman with a cape. And then it became a thing. And all of a sudden, I started wearing capes all the time, different prints, different colors. Um, Eventually, in London, during Climate Week, it came out where people said, "We're so inspired by your story. Your women are true heroes. You are a hero. You're kind of like the Cape Crusader." And so there was a scene where I was in a panel and I had to leave to go across the city in London. So I jumped on a motorcycle with my cape on, and the cape was flying behind me. So everyone was like, there goes the Cape Crusader. So now you tend to see me in a cape all the time, but I'm now going to turn 42 very soon. So there might be a new version of what this Cape Crusader was. I might pass the Crusader baton to
Oh,
you.
yeah. So the modern day
The
super,
modern, yes,
super hit.
exactly.
So, when I had to first wear the cape in New York, and everybody was like, but Ajaita is going to wear it. And I was like, oh my God, is that the Ajaita look? And if you're going to do something
But
together,
you remember what I said to you? I said, "Girl, I don't own the cape. You wear the cape. Let's be Cape Crusaders together because we care about sisterhood."
yeah.
So, folks, let her wear the cape. She looks great in it.
And I just have one cape. Okay, now coming back to the Saheli network, you've sort of grown like the 40,000 entrepreneur across thousands of villages, and now we see the Sahelis engaging with technology at platforms like India. They did something at the India AI Impact Summit. So, what has sort of surprised you, and I wanted to sort of throw some light on AI and entrepreneurship. We were just talking about
Yeah,
even, now of course my next question is going to be a bit on London and we can
sure.
talk a bit about it, but just tell us like how.
Yeah, I think so. What is exciting? So we brought many of our Sahilis to now go like the national platform, right? So whether that was the Global FinTech Festival that was in Bombay, or the AI India Impact Summit, even Sun Clubs in UP and Varanasi. What's beautiful is that these women own the stage, right? They recognize that these conversations that keep happening in India and globally, which is about how do we build for Bharat, right? How do we build for the global south? How do we create inclusive opportunities for AI? These women are looking at each other laughing, going, well, why aren't you asking us the question? We are the voice of Bharat, so why don't we tell you what we want? And so that to me was such a proud moment where I was watching these women literally show, let me show you how I use technology. Let me show you what I've built and why this AI functions for me, to like ministers, right? Or to like the heads of like big corporates or technology companies. But then during these summits, they were walking around. And what I found so amazing was when they were walking around and seeing other people's demonstrations or solutions for their home, rural India, they would be like, this is too complicated. This doesn't make any sense. I would never use this. Why are people not listening to her? Because
Yeah.
she's the consumer at the end of the day. And then the final thing that I'll say, which I'm really excited about, and this was our partnership with Microsoft. We're doing AI skilling now to the next level. But these women are now telling us how they want AI to be used for them. So they use words like efficiency, they use words like safety. And I think it's going to be really powerful to see what happens when rural women are designing or telling AI what AI should do for them. And that's going to be a game changer. So we're really excited to see what happens in the next like 1 year. So stay tuned to see the coolest new use cases of AI, but for the masses, because women don't just think about themselves, right? They think about their communities. And so imagine, AI climate for women farmers, imagine AI for efficiencies for shopkeepers, imagine AI for road safety to figure out better ways to travel. These are things that will be designed so intuitively because it's being designed with people that actually mean something.
Wow, wow, I love it. And I'm going to just talk about your She Leads Bharat
Yeah.
initiative. You're helping entrepreneurs, sort of deliver services like clean energy, healthcare, agriculture, finance. And what do you think is going to create the biggest impact? And we were also
Amongst those.
talking about the London Climate Week coming
Yeah.
up, and we,
Yeah.
we have some thoughts around it. Like you and me just had a conversation. So, what do you think? The world out there needs to see this about India.
Um, so it's an interesting question, right? I mean, is climate going to have a deeper impact than healthcare or than finance?
Hmm.
And I don't think it's one or the other, right? I
It
think
all
that
have to
I
be.
think I think what's happening from through our initiative, She Leads Bharat, and I mentioned that we are a super platform because I believe it's about the deep impact will be the combination
Yes.
of all three
Yes.
happening simultaneously. So imagine, a woman when she starts earning money, which is where the financial inclusion piece comes in, and she gets access to true power and agency because she has money in her pocket. That honestly still is the first entry point, right? But when you look at healthcare and you look at climate, these are vulnerabilities. Now, these vulnerabilities have to be equally addressed because if you do not deal with climate resilience, small women farmers are dealing with floods and droughts and extreme heat, which is actually making them unproductive and therefore not being able to allow them to earn that money. Now, when you look at this with healthcare, if you think about the healthcare crisis in terms of last mile healthcare, whether it's nutrition, whether it's hygiene, whether it's sanitation, I look at everything with the lens of productivity. So again, that's a big risk. So what have we done? We've said, how do you combine all of it? So She Leads Bharat as an initiative has been interesting because one, it's bringing together the government, it's bringing together local communities. That's where the women entrepreneurs are being created. That's where the households are being connected through the technology platform. But it's also bringing together all of the innovators in education, in climate, in agri, in clean energy, in healthcare, in finance. That is allowing us to co-design and co-create interventions. So what I'm excited about celebrating during London Climate Week is our ability to showcase what has never been done before. We are the first organization to ever launch a parametric design insurance product, climate insurance product for extreme weather for small women farmers in the country. Small women farmers. So this is 10,000 small women farmers got access to insurance for the very first time to deal with floods, droughts, and extreme weather, where they actually got payouts so they could actually still continue feeding their family. This is something that has been celebrated, but it's also something that's now ready for scale. So during London Climate Week, we're excited to showcase our learnings, but now announce that we will, and I'll say it here first, why not, that we have a vision to now scale this to 30,000 to a million women farmers in India. Now, what will the world learn? Because India really is the place of innovation, deep impact, and design. If you crack something in India as a model, not only can you create economies of scale that immediately takes a pilot to a market, which is, I'm sorry, nowhere else in the world can you do that because we have a billion people, but you also become a role model for replication. And we can see that the learnings that we have brought in through our work, we already have partners in the global south that are saying, well, how can we take your learnings and adapt it, which is quite exciting.
Wow, I love it.
Yeah.
Ajaita, you are an inspiration. And you've scaled a model like Frontier Markets. And of course, your journey has been long. Were there any challenges which you faced? I always look at challenges as opportunities, but I want your thoughts on that.
Well, this is why we're very similar as people. But I was going to say any. I was like many. I mean, there are many. I mean, it's been 21 years, right? I think about my 20-year-old self. She faced a so I love what you said to me the other day, think in decades. So when I think about that first decade had its own challenges. It would be challenges of being very young and not being seen as someone that could actually, today everyone appreciates a 25-year-old as a Gen Z. Our time,
No
no
one,
one appreciated a 25-year-old girl that wanted to build for Bharat, that
or
too with
change the
or
world.
change the world, and that too with an American accent. Really, like, what is an American accent girl from New York going to do to change rural India? So let's be honest. So there were a lot of barriers at that time, but I think it helped me grow. It definitely helped me push myself and prove that I can do it. And I think a lot of it was managing expectations, but I feel like those first 10 years were also then humbling because it was about learning, it was about making mistakes, being okay with it, but also luckily having the right mentors around. Then comes into that And then, of course, India was very different then. The second decade was its own learnings because it was demonetization. It was, crises around the world, COVID 1, COVID 2. I mean, let's be clear, when you're working in rural India, these things are daunting and challenging till no tomorrow. But now you're being seen as a leader. So you should be having answers to fix these problems, which you don't. Again, humbling and learning in a different way, as you said, an opportunity. So all of those things became opportunities. I think that, now going into the third decade in the 40s, I'm excited by it. I'm actually excited about the fact that the challenges that have come through, whether it's dealing with society, whether it's dealing with investors, whether it's building a business from scratch, making mistakes, dealing with markets, all of that has allowed you to become very strong and stable. And that stability also gives you, again, a different sense of humility, which enables you to think about partnerships and coalitions, right? It's one of the reasons why I always come to you saying, here's what I'm good at, and here's what I'm not good at. And here's what I know you're great at, so just do it instead of me,
Yeah.
right? And this is kind of where I think the new world of challenges will be addressed if done with a leadership mindset.
So I love what you said because, as I said, like, every 10 years we sort of, you have to reinvent yourself, of course. And I did tell you the story of Warren Buffett, like
Yes.
who had met maybe more than a decade back. And he says, and when I got an email back from his office, that the age of 93, he has too much to do and too little time left. That inspired me. And I was like, okay, our moment, like we have so many more
Right.
decades to go.
Yeah.
And so you've also been recognized for your work on social entrepreneurship and inclusive business. And what advice would you give founders today who want to build that business, which are both profitable and impactful? I mean, I
Yeah.
want to know that. Actually, that's for me.
What advice? Look, I think that if you want to do that well, I think you need to stay true to both principles, which ultimately means that they are equally weighed. One does not outweigh the other. And I think I say that in a true form because sometimes people would say, what do you mean? Shouldn't impact outweigh business? No, because if your business does not have a opportunity to sustain or scale, there's no impact that's going to be created. And if you only focus on business and profitability and commercial gain, you're going to lose sight of the impact that you're looking to build. So keep it equal and know your own values against that. I think that's been the biggest learning for me because I've had amazing mentors that were business first, and then I had amazing mentors that were impact first. By listening to both of them, but then, meshing them together, I was able to build my own philosophy where when crisis hits, don't think about your P&L only. Think about the people who are dealing with that crisis, because if you're impact oriented, you want to be there for your people. That's where your value systems come in. When things are going well, celebrate that by actually dreaming or building bigger and create gains that allow you to then reward both the impact and the business side. When you are doing too much impact, then and you're not making any money, maybe redo your business model or think about a different market. I feel like a lot of times we get caught up with this idea that I'm going to scale and you lose your business principles. We're like, boss, it's not about raising money.
You have to
It's
balance
about
it.
it's about revenue. Like it's funny to me how people have forgotten that a good business is about how strong your revenue is, how good your customers are, and how good your cash flow is. And this is like 101. Those principles do not go away when you're running a social business. If anything, it's more critical because you're dealing with such a vulnerable community. And you cannot afford to, when you scale your social business, to mess it up because then there's too many people on the line. So I remember during COVID, that was my challenge. I mean, we were already 20,000 women entrepreneurs. We had 310 staff all across the country. I could not just go, oops, sorry, COVID made us bankrupt. No.
No.
You
You have
don't
to
have a choice.
pivot.
You have to pivot, you have to evolve, but you're doing
do.
it with your business principles also because you have a set of accountability to an entire community.
We do.
Yeah.
I agree with you. And finally, since you know Win Women Inspiring Network is all about a winning message, so that's our last question. And tell us a message out there, and what do you see yourself doing 10 years from now for frontier markets and the kind of ecosystem you will create? So I want you to sort of give
Yeah.
us an inspirational message on that.
Look, I think 10 years from now, India will be really the leader geopolitically in showcasing what good business practice and impact looks like. Frontier markets, I can see it becoming a global leader. Not just Ajaita, a global leader, but frontier markets actually launching. She leads Nigeria, she leads Kenya, she leads Thailand, she leads Vietnam. And I'm excited about that journey 10 years from now in partnership and in collaboration. I think the winning statement for me always will be that recognize that the impact that you build is not just about your concentric circle, it's about an ecosystem, and that ecosystem can only evolve once you bring in partners and you collaborate.
On that note, thank you so much for joining us, Ajaita. It was truly a pleasure, and I loved having you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. As always, my dear.
Yeah.
Mwah.